have chanted the word Om at the end of a yoga class or during a meditation, but has anyone told you the significance of this word, what it actually means, why it's chanted? Well, in Hinduism, the word Om refers to the energy that created the universe. It's a vibration, it's light that created the universe. Light is actually the only fixed reality in our universe. And from this, time, space, matter, and all forms of energy are created. This is referred to in the Bible as the Word or Amen. In the book of John, chapter 1, verse 1, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God." In Hinduism, they would say the Om was the power that created the universe, and it came from God, and it was God. So, same concept, different religions, different ways of saying it. Now, the Om can actually be heard if you get very quiet, go deep in meditation. You may begin to hear a peculiar sound. I actually heard this sound when I was a child, about 10 years old. I had gotten interested in the concept of God, and I asked my mother how a person can hear God or hear God speak to them. And she gave me good advice. She said, well, trying to hear God is like trying to hear a whisper in a crowded room, a noisy room. That was very good advice. It's true. Trying to hear God or your intuition or the Om is like trying to hear a whisper through a crowd, but the crowd is in your own mind. It's your thoughts, your worries, your attachment to your senses, your memories, your fantasies about the future, what could happen, and your on and on, the chatter in your head. That's the noise that you have to quiet down to hear the whisper of God. So I tried that. I tried to get very quiet and listen. I didn't really think about it until today, but I was actually meditating. It was maybe not what you would think of as meditation, but I just tried to be as still as possible. And since I was listening intently, I really wasn't thinking about anything. And after a while, I was in my house. It was very quiet. It's the middle of the day. I began to hear this little, almost like a buzz, but it's high-pitched. I thought, that's odd. And I didn't think it was God. I just thought it was a noise I was hearing. I literally thought it was a noise coming from somewhere. There were some big electrical lines on a property adjacent to ours, some kind of, tower structures with big electrical lines. So I thought, well, maybe it's coming from that. And so I asked everyone in my home, one by one, if they could hear this sound. I said, come in the living room. He said, just sit here quiet, get real quiet. Can you hear that? Not a single person could hear it. They had no idea what I was talking about. I think the last person I asked was my father. He'd probably find it when he came home from work. And he said, he said, well, I don't hear anything. And he kind of was thinking about it. And he came to, the only logical conclusion, really, if you don't know what the Om is, that's something people can hear. He said, well, you must have some tinnitus in your ear. He said, well, don't pay attention to it because it's worse if you pay attention to it. And so I I just thought, oh, okay. The noise didn't really bother me, but I noticed that he was right. If I paid attention to the sound, it would sound louder. And since I had no idea what it was, I just thought, okay, well, I guess I just won't pay attention to it. It's just, perhaps a irregular noise in my ear that only I hear, possibly due to ear damage. But that was the first time, that's my first memory of hearing the Om. And I've heard it since. When I was about 20, I started meditating regularly and deeply, and then I would hear it at times. I don't think I didn't recognize it as the Om. I thought the Om would sound like Om, but it actually sounds like a high-pitched singing crystals sound that's coming from nowhere and everywhere. It's coming from space. But there was one evening where I had been on a meditation with one of my recent teachers, and the Om was very, very loud. The sound became very loud. I began to be concerned that I wouldn't be able to function in the world if it remained so loud. And so I messaged my teacher and I said, I'm a little concerned. I'm hearing this noise. And she started laughing. She said, oh, that's the Om. That's the Om of God. That's what you're hearing. And I actually had trouble believing it. I just didn't know what to think. I was a little concerned. But I realized it went away a little later, maybe a couple days later. I wasn't hearing it anymore, and I missed it. And at that point, I did realize that it was the Om of God, because it was a noise that I missed hearing. It was a comforting sound, and now I hear it very frequently, as long as I'm not totally ingrained, totally absorbed by my mental activity. I hear it, and it's very pleasant. And so, that's my story, my experience with the Om, and I'm sharing it just in case other people might be hearing that, and I want you to know what it is. And it's important to know that this sound, this energy of Om, this vibration, by tuning into it, it comes from God. It comes directly from God. So by tuning into it and following it back to its source, you're following it to God. You're following it back to your own source. So if you hear that, I encourage you to meditate on it and, cultivate it. I hope this explanation and my story are helpful to you in some way. Wishing you good meditations. Goodbye.